Welcome back! It's cherry blossom season! Cherry blossoms, or sakura, bloom all over Japan, and Japan is obsessed with them. Japan is so obsessed with cherry blossoms, they have a forecast predicting when and where the cherry blossoms will bloom throughout the country. Cherry blossoms typically last between 10 to 14 days, and because of this really small time schedule, these forecasts are really important to find the best time for you to do Hanami. What is Hanami?
Hanami is the Japanese tradition of having a picnic under fully bloomed sakura trees.
Hanami, or cherry blossom festivals, typically happen in Japan between late March to about mid-April. In some areas, this can happen even earlier. Okinawa, for example, has their Hanami in early January. So now you generally know when Hanami is, when's the best time for it, what is it, where do you go? Where are the best places in Tokyo to check out some Hanami? One of the most popular locations is the Meguro River. The Meguro River in Meguro is a massive stretch of river surrounded by cherry blossoms. Now, while this place is very popular, it does have its downsides, and that's the fact that it's very popular. If you don't head to the Meguro River very early to secure yourself a Hanami spot, you will not get a Hanami spot. However, in saying that, this is true for every single place on the list. If you do not go early enough, you will not get a Hanami spot. That is just the way Hanami works in Japan, especially during peak season. Another good place is Ueno Park. Ueno Park is a massive park in the middle of Tokyo that has an amazing grove of sakura trees that you can Hanami at any time of day. Next we have Sumida Park. Sumida Park is a massive park in the middle of Tokyo, fantastic location for Hanami. It also has fireworks in July. It's a pretty good place to spend summer evenings, pretty cool, it's right by the river. I'd recommend it, it's pretty nice. If you want a more exclusive feeling to your Hanami, check out the Shinjuku Imperial Gardens, or the Shinjuku Goen Park in, of course, Shinjuku. These gardens are pay to enter and thus deter everyone swanning in to enjoy Hanami there. I believe the park does have some rules and regulations you must abide to, so check those out before you go. If you want a less crowded location for your Hanami, might I suggest Kogane Park in West Tokyo. One of my favorite parks in Japan. It's a little bit out of the way from the center of Tokyo, and thus a lot of first timers to Japan, even people who've lived here for a few years, don't really know of its existence. Because of that, it's kind of a local hidden treasure. A lot of people go there, not only for Hanami, but also for the museum that's on the grounds, the great parks, it's got great jogging tracks. It's a good family-friendly oriented location, so definitely check it out if you want to enjoy some Hanami without super massive crowds. If you don't mind leaving Tokyo, and of course you don't mind the crowds, I'll give you a very good location, an amazing photo spot for cherry blossoms, and that is the Matsuda Cherry Blossom Festival. This location is very popular and thus very busy, not only with your average sakura enjoyer, but also photographers, videographers, influencers, company people, and just people who live in the local area. If you want to go to this or any location on the list, my suggestion to you is to go early. Arriving at these locations early not only secures you a nice spot, but also secures you the best timing for photos, videos, and of course, if you want to take a little blog, that is the best time to do it. As the day goes on, more and more people are going to turn up, making it a lot more impossible to take nice photos, get a good spot, or even buy stuff from the local stores. If you're someone who wants to go to the location first, sit down on top, and then buy things to bring to the Hanami later, it's very difficult if you get there late, as most of the stores surrounding the Hanami areas sell out very quickly. So we've spoken about Hanami, where you can do it, when you can do it, good locations to do it in, but why do people do it? Why is Hanami so popular in Japan? And to know that, we have to look back at Hanami. Let's dive into the history of Hanami and where it began.
What we do here is go back.
It's said that the custom of Hanami started during the Nara period in Japan. But during this time, it wasn't sakura that people were so wild about. It was actually plum blossoms, or ume. Sakura grew in popularity, and by the Heian period, Hanami became synonymous with sakura. While sakura did grow in popularity, and the term Hanami became synonymous with sakura, wisteria flower viewing parties were still called Hanami. And even in the tales of Genji, both the sakura, traditionally known Hanami viewing parties, and also the wisteria Hanami viewing parties were both seen as Hanami. It's very confusing. But as sakura grew in popularity, the wisteria parties stopped being called Hanami, and Hanami became a term only to describe sakura viewing parties. Now there was a point to these sakura parties outside of just looking at sakura. Sakura was originally used to divine the New Year's harvest, but also to let people know that the rice planting season has begun. In Japanese tradition and history, kami, or gods, are everywhere, and people believe that the gods inside the trees needed offerings during this time. So, during the Hanami festivals, they would give offerings to the kami in the trees, as well as partake in sake underneath said trees. Pretty dang good festival if you're asking me. Under the blossoming sakura trees of the imperial court in Kyoto, Emperor Saga, the emperor of Japan at the time, decided to host his own little sakura hanami flower viewing festivals under said trees. He'd drink sake and have massive feasts. The hanami parties that the emperor had were so luxurious, so top tier, that poems were written about them, discussing the delicacy of the flowers and the amazement of the events. These parties are said to be the origin of modern-day hanami in Japan. This custom of cordoning off hanami trees and throwing massive rages underneath them were only for the imperial, only for the elite during this time. But slowly but surely, this culture opened up, and the samurai society and eventually the peasantry as well had hanami parties all to themselves. The shogun Tokugawa Yoshimune wanted to encourage these festivals and thus planted sakura trees wherever he could. These sakura trees, more accessible to everyone, became locations that people could gather around, have lunch, have a drink, and of course enjoy what today we would call a modern day hanami. In the Edo period, things really started to kick off. Shrines, temples, riverbanks, modern areas. If there was grassland that trees could be planted, someone went there and planted a sakura tree. This was great for the common people of the Edo period because these sakura trees are more accessible than the ones in the bloody Kyoto imperial courts or even some by the riverbanks. These trees were accessible to everyone and gave a nice communal feeling to the areas, especially during, hanami, you know what I'm saying? During hanami times. During the Meiji period, the Yoshino cherry tree or the Yoshino sakura tree was planted all over Japan. However, sadly, during the restoration and during modernization, a lot of these trees were cut down. Since the Meiji period, the Yoshino cherry tree was the most popular tree for anyone to do hanami under, and thus they could be found all over Japan, until they couldn't. During rapid modernization, a lot of the Yoshino cherry trees, alongside a lot of other types of cherry trees, were cut down to make ways for urban areas, waterways, sewer systems, and other things people need to build very large cities. It didn't help that the daimyo gardens, a place where a lot of these cherry trees were planted, were demolished in space for modernization. Worried about the situation, a gardener, Takaki Magoemon, and the leader of the Kohoku village got together to save as many cherry blossom trees as they could. To save these trees from extinction, they got together and planted as many different types of cherry blossom trees along riverbanks, parks, and areas that weren't tagged for modernization. One of the areas for this was the Arakawa riverbank in the Kanto region, and that's why to this day, if you go there, you can see many different varieties of sakura tree lined up on the bank. And of course, the tradition of hanami has continued to this very day, with people gathering at parks, riverbanks, and any location with a large amount of sakura trees to enjoy a little bit of hanami. Hanami often coincides with the start of the fiscal year, or the start of the school year, or the start of the new work year. Because of this, a lot of hanami parties also become welcome parties. Because of this, you'll see a lot of people in suits enjoying a nice hanami in the middle of the day, perhaps even in the middle of the week. Now, hanami is serious business. There's no messing around. And when it comes to corporate hanami, there is no chances taken. A spot must be secured. Because of this, big companies will send their kohai or juniors down to prime hanami spots, sometimes hours before the event even happens, to save the spot for when everyone eventually joins them. Hanami isn't just a daytime sport, and for those with a more nocturnal breed, you can also view hanami at nighttime. It actually has a special name, Yozakura. Yozakura or night sakura is a really big deal, and two of the best locations in Tokyo to enjoy this different style of hanami is Yoyogi Park and Ueno Park. Both these locations set up paper lanterns, so it's really easy for you to go down there and enjoy the sakura at nighttime. While Yoyogi Park is massive, there are always huge meetup events going on, with YouTubers, both foreign and domestic, going there to have massive YouTuber meetups. Festivals in Japan are a really big thing, especially hanami. If you're in Japan during hanami season, I think it's definitely worth going down to a local park, even just having a quick walk through to check out the absolute chaos, the absolute magistry that is hanami season in Japan. It truly is something to behold. If you have the time, get a tarp out, take a seat, enjoy the surroundings. It truly is a once in a lifetime experience that I hope one day you can experience too. But until then, that's all I have today, guys. I hope you liked it. Leave a like in the comments down below, subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you're liking these videos. Do you have any crazy Hanami stories? Let me know in the comments down below. But until then, I'll see you next time. See you.